Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, and we have another fabulous episode for you today. Super excited about this. I am the CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, global speaker, speaking in over 17 countries, 5-star rated. I am what else am I? Man, I'm an entrepreneur organization member for 13 years, but most people probably know me because I spent over 13 years in baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And I hope you check out the new book, Leading Winning Teams. That book came out, and super excited to be promoting that right now. Check it out, Leading Winning Teams. Now available on hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. So super excited about that. And welcome to 2025. As usual, my guest today is Tracy Gapin, MD. Tracy, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, Trent. Glad to be with you here today.
Oh man, I'm glad you're here, brother. This is
Looking
gonna
forward
be
to it.
awesome because man, today's episode is all about my wheelhouse, right? Like this is just peak performance in an area that I have enough knowledge to be dangerous, right? You get an exercise physiology degree, you know a little stuff about medical, but I brought in the medical expert today. Tracy owns the Gapin Institute. This is a just amazing medical practice and prevention performance. It's it's a really peak performance for men and women's health. You've been out there, urologist, over 25 years, been doing this a long time. Crazy. And now, of course, the medical things changed, right, Tracy? Like you've got it's not like people just coming into your office. People are coming to you globally from all over the world because we're so reachable on Zoom and telehealth and all these things. Walk us through a little bit about the clinic real quick.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the main take home message here is our traditional healthcare system, our traditional approach to health is failing massively. You know, we are fatter than ever. Over 3/4 of us are either overweight or obese. Testosterone levels are plummeting. We have chemicals and toxins in our food, our drinking water, our personal care products. For the first time in decades, we're dying younger, which means lifespan is decreasing.
Yeah.
And
First time in a long time, right?
Yeah. And so something has to change. We have to really, really change the trajectory. And I am proud that I was able to see the light soon enough to really forge a new path forward. And how do we approach health and performance and longevity?
It's awesome. Your clinic and the institute is down in Sarasota, Florida. Tell them how they can find you and the institute, Tracy.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah. So website for Gapin Institute is gapininstitute.com, Gapin institute.com. My personal professional website, drtracygapin.com. A lot of content on there, a lot of done on over 100 podcast episodes on there. A lot of great content for free for the listeners. But gapininstitute.com. And then at the end, I'm going to share a way that I can share a bunch of gifts to the listeners as well from Gapin Institute.
Ooh, stay tuned, everybody. Everyone loves free gifts, right? Like, come on.
Right.
So now you are an A&M Aggie. You know, you went to undergrad. There's a Texas kid, kind of Dallas area, Plano kid. Go out to the Aggies, then spend a little time back in UT Southwest, Dallas for your medical school, then head off to Florida and Gatorville over there for a little residency and a number of years over there. So you're an SEC kid. I mean, like, you know, let's just, you know, you can't get away from it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Longhorns are there with us now, but it was fun to get that rivalry back again, though. So that's okay, I guess.
Yeah. This will air probably after, you know, like, but what do you, college football, you know, all excited about it or not so much?
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny you say that. So my wife grew up in Ohio, in Youngstown, just outside Ohio.
She's a Buckeye.
She spent a year there. She's a Buckeye. Her family's a diehard Buckeye family. And so, so there's some allegiance there as well. And we'll see what happens. In my, the way I see it, anyone but UT would be fine with me.
This is Big Ten country.
There you go.
Your wife will be, I see,
fans.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be great.
Yeah.
So now your beautiful wife, married her over 12 years ago, 2 kids, 11, 9, son, daughter. That's exciting. The family man now. I mean, I know that probably they had an influence on this next item, which is what most people don't know about you, Tracy. You have spent a ton of time becoming expert in robotic surgeries, prostates, all this work, and you spent a lot of time in that. And people
Yeah.
go, whoa, well, the Gapin Institute, that's got
Yeah.
very or less to
Yeah.
do with that than how you're doing now.
Yeah.
When we talk about this show, this is a major professional pivot, because people know what surgeons make. There's a lot of money there on the table. And now when we talk about winners find a way, the show is winners when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win.
Yep.
Do you have a particular health story that changed things for you and led you into a pretty massive shift in your professional development?
Yeah, it changed everything for me, Trent. You're spot on. So I was about halfway through my career in urology. I'm doing robotic surgery every day. I'm in the operating room at night, treating kidney stones and living the surgeon's lifestyle. And I hit 40. So this was back. I'm 52 now. So this is about 12 years ago now. And I go for my first physical ever. My wife at the time, or my fiance at the time, soon to be wife, talks me into it. And so I go and see a concierge doc in town. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And I have to come face to face with the fact that I'm 30 pounds overweight. My labs were a mess. My cholesterol was through the roof. And I had to suddenly realize that I was in bad shape. And I had to really come face to face and acknowledge my own mortality. And it was a very eye-opening moment. But the biggest part of it was not that, believe it or not. The biggest part of it was, here I am as a board-certified urologist, decades of experience as this men's health expert. I spent years going to school, years going through training to be this urologist, this guy that men come to for this kind of help. And I was like, well, shit, I don't know what to do. And the doc, this is what was pretty scary. He's like, yeah, just, eat more vegetables, exercise, and we're probably going to put you on a statin if your numbers don't improve. And that was it.
At 40.
At 40, I'm like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
there's got to be more to it than that. Like I'm missing something here. And that was really a trigger for me, selfishly, for my wife and my family that was on the way, that I need to really understand, what the hell do I do? How do I approach this? And I realized that everything I learned up until then was worthless. And how do I transform my own health? How do I regain my energy? And I had to suddenly realize that I'm stressed out. I feel like crap every day. I'm miserable. I'm moody. I'm cranky. I'm tired. I'm not sleeping well. I'm eating like crap. I'm not exercising. I'm doing nothing right. And I'm somehow, I'm somehow doing well. I'm successful in my medical practice, but I was like a ticking time bomb. And so I went back to school. And I started going through courses and certifications in functional medicine and epigenetics, which is really how your lifestyle and environment affect the way your body works. I learned how to optimize hormones the right way. I learned about peptides. I learned about genetics and wearable technology and all this cutting edge science around longevity. And at the time, anti-aging was this bad word. We don't say that. It's scoffed and frowned upon. Suddenly I realized that they were onto something, when it's not about treating disease or illness or symptoms, but it's in fact, how do we prevent problems in the first place? How do we identify at a cellular deep level what's happening and fix that problem before it's too late, instead of being reactive, to instead be intentional? And so I put all these pieces together, all this new science that I learned, and I was able to really turn my health around. And I started feeling better, had amazing energy, lost weight. I was like, holy cow, this is how you're supposed to feel. Started sharing this with my patients, and they started having similar results. Most importantly, Trent, I realized that my life would never be the same again, because I couldn't go back to that old world. And so I wrote a book called Male 2.0, best-selling book, Male 2.0, Cracking the Code to Limitless Health and Vitality. I gave a TED Talk. I've been on hundreds of podcasts. And I made the ultimate decision to follow my heart, follow my passion. And I jumped off this figurative cliff, and I walked away from a 7-figure surgical practice to start from scratch. And I launched the Gapin Institute. It was about 8 years ago. So there was some overlap for a few years there as I was building this business. But 4 years ago, I formally walked out of that medical practice, never to return. Haven't taken a day of call again in my life, which is a blessing. Because for me, what you talked about earlier, Trent, my wife and my 2 kids, like, we'll talk about peak performance in a minute. That's what it's all about. And I realized I was missing out on what's most important in my life. And so everything changed in that one doctor's visit, Trent. And it was a pivotal moment for me in my life and my personal path as well as my career.
Yeah. So, yeah, first of all, thanks to your wife. Get in and find out,
Right.
right? Because the
Yeah.
data doesn't lie. Let's get the data. And that's a big thing for us in peak performance is,
Yeah.
I deal with this constantly with companies, with organizations, especially with athletes, like review the tapes. Like the video doesn't lie. Like you get the data, like you got to start making decisions on the data.
That's right.
Oh no, I was in perfect position, coach. Like,
That's right.
yeah, let's go to the video. Let's find out, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big one. I think so. Blessing there. You're a tribute now to this. I want to talk about that because you're modeling behavior, right? I mean, look at you now. I mean, you look less than 40 now. You're 12 years later, looking less than when you walked in. Who's probably 40, looking 50, carrying
Right.
30 pounds, right?
That's right.
Carrying a pretty sizable school bag every day. And the wear and tear that's having on joint strain, everything else that the body structure is not built for. Massive deal. I love the book. There's a book that recently came out called The Lies I Was Taught in Medical School. And I was like, oh man, right? Like, this is some of the things, and this is one of my biggest knocks, Tracy. This is probably probably the harshest thing of my physiology degree and being around health and medical is there are so many people who are trained health professionals who do not model it at all, right? You walk into a hospital and you've got doctors outside smoking, cardiologists outside smoking, right? You got the nurses, average 25 pounds overweight, living this lifestyle is not conducive to health because the schedule's terrible, right? It's tough on your families. And yet these are the people who are supposed to have the knowledge going, hey, you need to get healthier. Like, I don't know if I can listen to you while you're blowing smoke in my face, right? Like this is craziness. How did we lose that gap from medical health, taking care of ourselves and passing that along? Where do we miss it?
Yeah. And first of all, I love your whole point on data because everything we do now is based on data. It's all about test, don't guess. It's all about know your numbers. And so I love the fact that everything you mentioned is aligned with what we do at Gapin Institute with being data driven. But back to our failing medical system, it is fully controlled by big pharma and the insurance companies without question. And we are taught in medical school, that people think that there's this nefarious plot by doctors to prescribe drugs and that we're getting paid by drug companies. Drug companies can't even give me a pen anymore. They're not allowed to give you any gifts at all because they're under such scrutiny for what they're giving to doctors, but yet they're giving, 8-9 figure bonuses to the CEO every year based on profits. But the real distinction here is that what we are taught in medical school is not how to think about at a cellular level what's happening with metabolism, blood sugar regulation, and hormones, and all these other systems that matter. Instead, no, it's find the diagnosis code, which is now it's called an ICD-10 diagnosis code, and this is the drug to treat it. Diagnosis, drug, diagnosis, drug. And we get siloed, I as a urologist was siloed into treating men's health issues and prostate cancer and kidney stones and enlarged prostate and doing vasectomies and all that kind of fun stuff. We're siloed into find the diagnosis, and this is how you treat it, typically with a drug. That's what's wrong with our healthcare system, and our medical school system is a big part of that problem.
Yeah. I and you feel that, and one of the things that I see a lot now, and I'll call root cause, right? We're not diving in deep to, hey, here's the root cause. Everyone's treating symptoms. Like, hey man, and this isn't just medically either, by the way. This is in business too. It's like, oh, hey, our marketing doesn't work. Well, hey, maybe the product is the root cause. We could say like, hey, people aren't buying for a reason, but there's all sorts of things of like, what is the root cause of the challenge? And I think getting deep and having those layers to drive into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an unwillingness, if it's wow, that's a lot of work. Yeah, it is a lot of work, but like, man, that's how you build up. Like, how do you build a great house on a bad foundation, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't get back to that root cause, it's a real issue. So understanding that cellular level, understanding how that body functions, such a big deal. So let's dive into a little bit of that, because as we talk about I love the I probably should have the t-shirt that says trust God, all else bring data, right? Like because that's the thing now, right, man? Like we got opportunities, we've got access to tons of data. And now, the aura rings, the risk, everything. There's just a ton of information we can find out about
Yeah,
what's going on with us very
sure.
quickly and adapt to that. Walk us
Yeah.
through a little bit some of the wearable tech and some of the things you've seen and where that's
Yeah.
headed.
Yeah. So I love wearables, and I have a 4-step approach to optimizing health. And this is the 4th step you're hitting on right away, which I love. And this is really, and I use the exact phrase you said, know your numbers. And what's ironic is that so many people are telling you what to do, eat this, take this supplement, use these amazing magical peptides that are going to do everything for you without having to do any work and, immediate gratification. But the question everyone out there should be asking is, how do I know if what I'm doing is actually freaking working? And
Mm,
most people listen to this are business owners. So you understand the concept, or entrepreneurs. So understand the concept of KPI, key performance indicator.
yep.
You should have key performance indicators, KPIs, or metrics for your health as well, in terms of what are you tracking to know that what you're doing is actually freaking working. And
Yeah.
so we can look at things like blood sugar, for example. Blood sugar monitors, a continuous glucose monitor, is no longer just for diabetics. It's for anyone, because we know that blood sugar regulation is directly tied to energy, cognitive function, metabolism, is actually tied to cardiovascular health and longevity. All the things that we want when it comes to peak performance are directly tied to blood sugar. And you can measure that on a daily basis and see how your sleep, your stress, your environment, your diet is directly affecting blood sugar. And then you can know what to do. You can measure sleep. You mentioned the Aura Ring. It's one of the most validated, scientifically studied devices for measuring not just quantity of sleep. Quantity of sleep is not nearly as important as quality. And by that, we mean we want to look at the different stages. And are you getting the deep sleep and the REM sleep, which are the restorative stages that we ultimately really care about? If you're not, there are a lot of different ways that we can specifically fine tune and improve that. You don't know until you get those numbers, right? Until you get that data to know if what you're doing is working. You
Yeah.
can look at stress, and most high performers you talk to will say, I'm not stressed. Now that's for the next guy. It doesn't affect me at all. Well, I say, well, let's measure it. And you can actually measure it with salivary cortisol testing as one way to measure, at a hormone
Wow.
level. But you can actually measure it every day. And I do this myself. So wake up at 6 a.m., make my cup of coffee. I sit on the couch. I put on my HRV monitor. Okay. HRV stands for heart rate variability, and it is a direct measure of your body's internal stress levels. It's a balance of your sympathetic and parasympathetic yin and yang nervous system, so to speak. And it's a direct measure of your daily stress levels that you can use to understand, again, if what you're doing is actually working. So guys will tell me I'm not stressed. Well, I could look at your numbers and say, well, bullshit. I can see your numbers tell me you are stressed. You're overtraining. Look how the alcohol is affecting you. Look how the lack of sleep is affecting you. Look how the travel's affecting you. Or look how your diet's affecting all these different things. We can see directly how it's measuring your internal stress levels. And to be really clear, you cannot build muscle. You cannot burn fat. You won't have energy and cognitive function like you want. You're not going to have sex like you want. You're not going to live longer like you want to if your body is in a stressed state. And you can measure that. And then once you measure it, you can manage it.
That's crazy. And I think, this is, and I think about my pro baseball days, right? When I go back to that, where I'm training all these high performers, right? And I'm getting no visibility on the psychology, right? Other than like visual and maybe some conversations, you've got some certainly, visible eyes on the fact that they are in an escalated state or something like that, right? Anxiety's high. You could see some things in there. Depression sometimes. So you've got this, training variability that you're going for, and it's this gray box, right? Too much, and you're in an automatic overtraining, overuse situation. A risk of injury goes way up, right? You've exceeded the
Yep.
amount of exposure you really
Yeah.
want for the human body. Then you go down below the gray box, right? And now you've got an unconditioned, almost susceptible body that's not prepared for what's about to happen, right? So it's a constant, and of course that's all individualized. It's all
Yeah.
individualized by
Yeah.
their stress levels, by
Right.
how much workload they can take, how much rest they've had,
Yeah.
what kind of nutrition values, which has really changed the game now When I was there, it was terrible, right? It was like, I'm going to Burger King. What's open at 11 o'clock in
Yeah.
these small towns where you're playing ball? Pizza,
Yep.
like this is what everybody eats at midnight, right? And it's a gong show, man.
Yeah.
It is it's
Yeah.
an absolute challenge. And yet still these amazing athletes rise to the top. So and I love the Aura Ring story. I think it was Aura that had the they got it might have been the band. What's the band?
So
It was
yeah,
like
there's Whoop is one of the
Whoop.
bands out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Whoop story of the PGA. They were brought into the
Yep.
PGA on Whoop
Yeah.
to start monitoring during COVID. And what they
Mhm.
were seeing was that their oxygenation level would go way up. And of course, that's a fractional change in the body. Like it just doesn't
Mhm.
change much, right?
Right.
So you would have someone at like a 10.5, and then 2 days before they got COVID, their oxygenated level or whatever I can't remember the exact measurement, but it would go to like 12, 13. It would be like a literally 15, 20% change, which was rare with people,
Yeah.
right? And so then all of a sudden, like, oh, they take the test, no positive.
Yeah.
And then 24, 36 hours later, then it would be positive. So it was the indicator that, listen, your body's fighting this infection. Like you
Yeah.
have something in your body, right?
Right.
That's being
Yeah.
infecting it, right? And so the body's reacting and the whoop's picking it up in advance of.
Yeah.
It's
And this is a
crazy.
great example of how our healthcare system is failing because we integrate wearables with everything we do, and it's integrated into our approach when we design, a customized blueprint. It's part of that, and it should be so that you can understand if what you're doing is actually effective for that individual. And so this is a big problem with our healthcare system is that it's, I like to say one size fails all instead of one size fits all.
Mm,
No one's testing to know if what they're doing is actually working or the right drug for you. Funny, I went back years later once I did all the schooling, and there's a test to actually understand why are your lipid numbers abnormal, cholesterol, LDL, etc., and how do you treat it? And for me, a statin was the wrong freaking drug anyway.
yeah.
And so millions of people are being put on drugs such as statins that are the absolute wrong drug for them. And if you actually did any testing, advanced diagnostics, use data, you would understand that you're taking the completely wrong approach.
That's so disheartening. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because I think about when I was a kid, 1980. Let's say that I'm 10 years old, right, Tracy? And if there was a medical doctor, it was like, hey, doctor, what's the best way to launch a rocket to space? Because like it was a doctor. He knew everything. Like, this is my podiatry problem. This is my rotator cuff problem. This is my lung issue. And he was expected to know all of it, right? Like, and we think about that now and the information and the specialists of the world going, oh my gosh, there's so much data. There's so much information to know.
Mhm.
I would never ask my shoulder surgeon, who's one of the top guys in the world, right, doing rotator cuffs for multi-million-dollar athletes, to be like, hey, what do you think I should be treating for this urology issue I have? Like,
Yeah.
I would never ask him that. I'd be like, I mean,
Yeah.
I might get your opinion, but I wouldn't take it as very valuable, right? Now I got to go over and see Tracy Gapin and find this information, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to search out the people that know. And yet, that's not how it was 30
Yeah.
years ago. There was this expectation, this
Right.
overarching, like, well, you know everything, don't you? Have doctor in front of your name.
Yeah.
You went to school a long time. So did you get it all? Did you get all the information while you were there? Right? It's
It's scary.
impossible.
Yeah, it's scary that there's a recent study that showed that most doctors are 17 years behind the science.
Oh,
17 years, and things are moving so fast. You have to stay on top of it because it's constantly changing and evolving. And I'll just pull one out of the air here. NAD. Everyone's talking about NAD, this amazing molecule that we know is so important for energy. And way back when I was in medical school, NAD was nothing. It was just part of the electron
yeah.
transport chain. It was who cares, whatever. Now we understand how important it is ultimately for energy systems, for metabolism, and for theoretically longevity. Well, supplementing with some of these products out there like NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NR, nicotinamide riboside. There's products everywhere on that, or NAD drips. You're hearing about all these centers. Is actually the wrong way to address it because We now understand just in the last year that NAD decline as we age is not from lack of production, but increased turnover and breakdown of it. And certain cells, especially cancer cells, love NAD. And if you're feeding NAD, you may actually be causing more harm than good. And so there's a different nuanced way of optimizing NAD, not taking NMN or NR or any of these NAD boosting products you see on the market. This is how important it is that you're on the science, because it's continually freaking evolving as new cutting edge information comes out.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And let's kind of pivot on new innovation technology to the Gapin Institute. Let's lift the hood on the car a little bit here,
Yeah.
because you've got a very unique, solid methodology and process. I hit on number 4 a little quick on there. I jumped the gun. Sorry, man.
I love it. No, it's all good. Yeah.
So, but let's get into that, like
Yeah.
these steps that are so
Sure.
critical to us getting it right.
Yeah. So it starts with the diagnostics. And I like to say, find your blind spots. Okay. Find your blind spots, because every one of us, whether you want to believe it or not, have blind spots in your health that are either causing problems and holding you back right now, or maybe lurking under the surface waiting to cause a problem in the very near future. Great example to drive this point home is Bob Harper. Bob Harper, he's that fitness trainer on the TV show, The Biggest Loser. He looks amazing. He looks healthy, teaches people how to lose weight. At the age of 51, Bob Harper had a heart attack that almost killed him.
Wow.
How is that possible?
Yeah.
Bob Harper looked healthy. He was not healthy. He actually had a massively elevated LP little a, lipoprotein A, which is a genetically inherited subtype of LDL that most doctors don't even know about. They don't even test. And when it's elevated, it's a completely different approach than the typical statin model that every doctor out there has. Critically important you find your blind spots, whether it's in cardiovascular health, whether it's in hormones, whether it's in blood sugar regulation, inflammation, nutrients. Your doctor's checking the wrong tests. They're using these ridiculous ranges, which are called normal, which are the reference range of the lab. They're not optimal. They're just the average. And so most of the time your doc's telling you you're fine when you're not. And your doctor doesn't understand, how do you apply this new information that's coming out every day around these tests. So diagnostics is the first step. The second one is deep dive. And by this, I say test, don't guess. And this is, again, in the data-driven mode that you led the show with. Test, don't guess means you need to take a deep dive and understand why. Why are those markers off? Why am I not able to lose weight? Why is my sleep not where it should be? Why is my energy not like it's supposed to be? And this requires some functional medicine. It requires genetics. We can use genetics to understand literally what should you be eating. For some guys, carbs may actually be good for you. A lot of guys are doing keto or carnivore, and based on your genetics, it may be the wrong diet, or the right type of workout program or recovery program may actually be guided by your genetics. So genetics are amazing. Imaging is incredibly helpful here as well. Great story. Sean, he is this beast of a guy. He's a PA, physician's assistant. He had this incredible transformation when he got his nutrition and fitness dialed in, and he looks incredible. He's in the gym every day and eating chicken and rice, doing all, you could see that gym rat in your mind.
Yeah.
Lipids look great, blood sugar, hormones, all those labs look great. We did cardiac imaging on him. Okay, calcium score, it's called, of your heart. Every guy out there should get a calcium score done. It's a simple, quick, fast CAT scan your heart to look for hard plaque. That score should be 0, no plaque. Sean's score at the age of 36 was 212. He was overtraining, causing stress to his system, and that was a big driver of cardiovascular risk for him at the freaking age of 36. And so this is where you got to take a deeper dive. And again, this is where traditional medicine is failing, is by relying on just the old school labs telling you you're fine and wait until it's too late. So that's step 2 is deep dive. Step 3 is design. And this is where, again, I say one size fails all, where you need to put all the pieces together. And I think of it like baking a cake. The foundation is nutrition and gut health. So many of us are having issues with our microbiome, which is the microbes in our gut. It affects energy, metabolism, neurotransmitters in our brain, immune system. Everything is driven by our gut, believe it or not. So nutrition and gut are foundational. Hormones, sleep, fitness, mindset and stress, and environmental toxins. That's your cake that we're trying to bake. And then the icing on that cake is all the sexy stuff, right? Like the cool, sexy peptides, the plasmapheresis, the sauna, the cryo, the red light, the hyperbarics, all these sexy molecules out there. They're great. And I don't have any problem with any of those, but there needs to be context and nuance and individualization, understanding, what is right for you. I see so many guys come to me and say, hey, what stack of peptides should I take? Well, that's like going to the grocery store, literally taking a can of Duncan Hines frosting off the shelf and just eating that frosting. It's not the same as when you put it on top of the cake that's been baked. And I'm not out here telling you to eat cake. I'm telling you that you need to do it in the right way and put all those pieces together. And there's some foundational elements, and then there's some stuff you could add on top of that. And people are putting the cart before the horse so often. So that's the personalized design, I call it. And then the data is what we already started with. It is the last step, is to know your numbers. And it's a continual optimization. With traditional healthcare, we just stop. We say, yeah, you're good. Come back when there's a problem. But the way I see it is, how can I be better? How can I continually optimize and improve and be better? Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you ain't first, you're last. Where's Ricky Bobby?
Yeah. I also like it's a holistic approach, right? I mean, in the fact that it's all encompassing, because it's all involved. I always use the example of the swim lanes, right? There's 8 swim lanes, and we got somebody on the team who's going to be responsible for each lane, and one person's not managing that responsibility well. And so, their lanes turning, yellowish and then green, and algae is forming. Well, listen, the 2 people in the lanes next door are like going, wait, whoa, hey man, I'm working hard to like get it. Trent, what are you doing? You're affecting my lane, right? Like, hey, listen, you're going to work twice as hard to keep up, because now I've got all this stuff in proximity to you. And listen, it's not long before, the whole pool turns green, right? If you just got someone or something in there that's just infecting it all, right? So from a holistic standpoint, I always look at like, hey man, it doesn't take much to bring you down. And you're like, oh, but I'm great in all these areas. Oh, great. Oh, we don't talk about that one. Right? Like, oh, let's just not talk about that one. Like, right. No, man. It's all going to affect everything, right? So I love it. Okay. So you talked about a bunch of things. And I want to end with the preventative stuff, which is so important to me.
Yeah.
But what I want to pivot to next is, you brought up a couple examples of the health of young folks. I mean, it's uncanny. And maybe it's always been, and maybe people didn't know it. I just don't remember being 20. Now, I was in sports. We're a bunch of, pretty hyper focused athletes that are pretty fit. So, but it's not like I didn't know people at uni and everything else that I'm meeting. I mean, I meet these kids, they got low testosterone levels at 21. They've got, significant issues that maybe no one was ever testing for, and maybe it was out there. I don't know, Tracy, but I'm shocked by some of the things that are going on in kids' health at what I would consider a very young adult age.
Yeah, absolutely. It's happening younger and younger. And I see men in their 20s and 30s who have incredibly low testosterone levels. And I talk a lot about this testosterone epidemic in men. And testosterone, to be really clear here, is critically important, not just for building muscle or for better sex. It's actually important for cardiovascular health. And we know that men who have lower testosterone levels have worse in lipid numbers, worse blood sugar regulation, more inflammation, and actually shorter lifespan. Clear correlation between low T and longevity. And so it's a big deal. And the culprit, I believe, is multifactorial, a lot of different causes, but without question, the biggest one are toxins, chemicals in our environment, in our water, in our food, in our personal care products. And so the details matter. What you do on a daily basis, filtering your water every day matters. Eating organic matters. Avoiding plastics matters. Looking at the ingredients of your personal care products. These little details matter.
Yeah.
So it's happening in young men every day.
And you're seeing people make that investment, right? You're seeing people wake up. I mean, listen, Kennedy's doing a pretty good job to tell everybody like, hey, listen, don't believe everything you've been told, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the rise of healthy organic foods. I mean, that was one I missed, Tracy. Holy cow, man. I probably went to one of the original Whole Foods back in 1992 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, going, holy cow, this food's expensive. Like, right? But like, we're getting the healthiest things and buying grains in 25-pound bags, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And changed the way we like ever brought food into our house.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. It was the huge benefit. My story is my mother-in-law got cancer, and she treated it with a macrobiotic diet, where
Yeah.
there's actually places in the world culturally who have literally 0 to 1% cancer, right? They have a
Yep.
very low number.
Right.
And she studied the macrobiotic diet, where there is not any even discussable matters of cancer in the entire region, right?
Yeah.
And so taking on that diet, I mean, amazing. And like the food that you had to get was not at your A&P, was not at your Kroger, right?
Right.
And so you had to go find these things. There was a lot of work. And I was like, man, I could buy a health food grocery store now. Man, did I miss that one, bro? Why I didn't invest in Whole Foods, I have no idea, and everything else. But like, crazy when we see how valuable that is. And when I hear a lot of families, and I really respect the fact that taking care of yourself and eating right is a sacrifice. It's a cost. It's an investment in your health. But you see the back end, right, doctor? You see the
Yeah.
back end of the medical bills that add up on these surgicals, these the cost, the down days of work. I mean, all the stuff now. And like, and I tell people, like, hey, you're not going to wake up at 60 and go, hey, you know what? I want to feel like I'm 21 again. Like,
Yeah.
you've got 40 years of damage or more to your body that you've just been wrecking it. And I'd like, and Dr. Tracy, can you fix this up in 3 months? Like, hey man, you got 45 years. I think we're in a little bit more than 90 days, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think one of the key points of what you just said is powerful, in that studies show us without question that over 90% of all chronic disease, including cancer, is lifestyle driven and it's preventable. Again, 90% of chronic disease, including cancer, is preventable with lifestyle. And so you could pay for it now or you could pay for it later, but without question, you can affect how your body ultimately performs. And I think of everything you do, I think of like this complex human operating system that we have. And there are all these inputs to our system that are affecting the output. And those inputs are everything you're doing, the air you're breathing, the water you're drinking, the food you're eating, the chemicals that you're putting on your body, the environment that you're in, the fitness that you're doing, the sleep, the stress, everything you're doing to your body. Think of those as signals. And so everything you're eating, that's a signal to your body, to your microbiome, to your gut, to your brain, that's ultimately driving either health or disease. And so it is controllable. Disease is preventable. And I think of a lot of guys think, I'm not going to invest in myself and my health. I'll just try to eat more vegetables and sleep better. And a couple stories that really, to me, are powerful. Paul Allen. I love entrepreneurship. You're an EO, so you get this as well. Paul Allen, co-founder of Microsoft. He was worth over $30 billion at one point. The guy pretty successful. He was diagnosed with lymphoma at the age of 56 and died a few years later. Steve Jobs, we all know, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, age 48, and died a few years later. So these guys had all the money in the world, but they couldn't buy one more day. And so again, pay for it now or pay for it later. And so this is why I really encourage all you guys out there, invest in your health, take those additional extra steps to find those blind spots and get started.
Yeah, so important. So important. Man. One of the things that I think, and I like how you touched on this in your health story, right? I'm a 40-year-old man with a medical degree, and I don't know where to get started.
Yeah.
Like, and you could go, okay, I'm gonna buy some running shoes, I'm gonna do something, but there's very little, but action's the key thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we gotta just stop talking about it. I often use the question, are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're interested, you're talking about it. If you're committed, you're doing it, right?
Love it.
And you'll know the people that are committed because they have taken on the package at the Gapin Institute. They are coming. I'm coming to get all this stuff. the interested are going, hey, I should find a clinic like that somewhere where I could really start getting healthy. And, I should look at where my local healthy store is. Like,
Right.
I should start getting up at 5 and start, walking before work. And, should maybe I'm thinking about, like,
Yeah.
man, that's a lot of interest. And and it's a great start. But you haven't started till you take
Yeah.
action, right?
Yep.
So walk us through when someone comes into the Gapin Institute and they say, "Hey, like, listen, I'm ready for a lifestyle change here,
Yeah.
Tracy. Like, I don't even know where to begin."
Yeah. And we hear that every day. And so we start with testing. We always start with testing because I believe that helps drive decisions, help us understand what are those blind spots. We take a deep dive. What additional functional testing might we need to do to further personalize or individualize it? And then we really design your plan. And that relates to nutrition in terms of fitness, in terms of sleep, in terms of mindset, stress, environment, and then the hormones and the supplements that you might need on top of that. And then use data to really track and results and measure outcomes and be sure that we're achieving the goals we're trying to achieve. But a lot of it comes back to this concept of tiny habits. And, there are two great books out there on habits, Tiny Habits and Atomic Habits. They're both amazing. I personally like Tiny Habits. And I think any guy out there who's listening should read both of those books because they both come at it from different angles. But it's baby steps. Make one little change starting today. Tie it to something you do every day. Like for example, just get enough protein in your diet on a daily basis. Commit that every day I'm going to do whatever it takes to get at least 150 grams of protein in my diet. I don't care what else I do just do that one freaking thing, that one baby step. Instead, guys like trying to do this, make it all complicated. I'm going to do carnivore or keto or paleo or Mediterranean and has this and that. I can't eat this. Like, guys, start simple, take one baby step forward and just make one little decision. Make a decision that you're going to get enough sleep. Prioritize sleep. That one decision is I'm going to be in bed by 11 o'clock. And I'm going to, for those 2 hours before bed, I'm going to either read, journal, meditate, do sauna, or have sex. One of those 5 things, no blue light for those 2 hours before bed. Make that one little micro decision today. Make that one decision that you're going to get off your ass every day. And you're going to do strength training at least 3 days a week. You're going to do some form of low intensity a couple days a week, some intervals a couple days a week, but you're going to do something every single freaking day, non-negotiable. Schedule it. If it's not on your calendar, it won't happen. These little tiny baby steps. Guys want to make it so complicated, and we can make it as complex as you want. Most guys want easy button, so we have to simplify it down and make it palatable. And I think it starts with that one first step, and that's how you make progress, one step in front of the other.
Yeah, I love Andy Frisella's 75 Hard. The idea of like, hey, I'm going to read 10 pages a day. I mean, a friend of mine coined this phrase. It's 75 inconvenience, what it is, right? Like, because there's really nothing over strenuous about the lifestyle. It's adapting your lifestyle to get out and have an hour and a half of activity a day, 2 separate segments of 45 minutes, dealing with elements, reading, putting water into your body, right? And changing what you're going to put input on nutrition into your body and getting very disciplined about that. And man, like habits are built. And I think what the real value in is not only the discipline of it, but the things that you can see can change rapidly in your body in 75 days from not a massive amount of overwork or change. They're absolutely modest changes to most people's lifestyle. It's a commitment that you got to make to do these things. It's not an intensity that I've got to go blow this thing up and become a bodybuilder in 75 days. And it's great to see that visual image of your body adapting to these habit forming changes.
Yeah. Yeah. My key word around that is momentum. And when you build momentum, that's going to drive motivation to do more. And how could I get better? And momentum in my mind is really the driver of all of that. And so I love Bo Eason talks about this in his book about how it's 66 days to establish any habit, consistent habit. And so I think it's making those little tiny habits ingrained in your day long enough until they eventually stick. And whether it's 66 days, whether it's 75 days, whether it's 90 days, whatever it is, keep going and just don't ever freaking quit.
Yeah. Let's two last things. One is sexual health, and then two, I want you to be thinking about if someone's facing that crises today in their health, best advice you could give them today. I want to think about that too. But let's start with the sexual health part, which is, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how much I see advertisements for, ED and like the just constant chemicals that are running through our bodies. It's a massive, I freak out when I watch, 16, 17-year-old kids get out of their car with a Rockstar Cola and a vape. Like, oh my God, like how many chemicals are you just putting in your body by 7:30 a.m.? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is a recipe for disaster. And I'm a coffee drinker. I put caffeine in my body. Like, so, I'm not immune to making bad choices, so like, I just want to go on record right now about that. Like, I love a good, dessert, bro. So, but, we're getting to this now where it's, 28-year-old to 35-year-old. These are heavy, reproductive years. And we have all sorts of sexual dysfunction, like sexual health issues, and it just keeps escalating from there. What's going on?
So it's all part of the same problem, and it is the squeaky wheel. It is the red herring. It's the sign of a much deeper problem. When we have issues with sexual health, it's a sign that there's problems with hormones, inflammation, blood flow, lipids, blood sugar regulation, our gut, stress. All of these things together are influencing our, and you mentioned the word, I love earlier, you mentioned the word root cause, which is really a foundation of functional medicine. But the root cause of that is not Viagra deficiency.
Yeah.
That's not our problem. That is, again, that's trying to throw frosting at the problem instead of focusing on baking that cake. And so it's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole to just take a Viagra and think I'll be fine, instead of actually addressing the underlying problem. So to answer the question, it's a problem of the whole system is not working properly. And especially in young men, it's a massive red flag that you have problems, and you should not just be simply throwing the blue pill or the yellow pill at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a massive, it's a symptom, right? This is the ultimate symptom. And what it is it's the ultimate symptom to get a male's attention, by the way, when all of a sudden something, that's part of their life, they enjoy, this is a huge function in my relationship, all these things no longer works. Like, that may be the one thing, actually, like you said, that finally decides someone, maybe I need to go check out my full scan and find out where I'm at, because it's got my attention. Because this is the symptoms finally that's turned you into say, listen, you've got a ton of plaque in your heart. You've got, definitely circulation issues. What's going on in that? Maybe the daily dose of Twinkies isn't working out, right? And so we're diving into that. So I love that maybe it's the indicator to start diving into the root cause. So fabulous. Now let's talk quickly before we got to go. I want to get to what, the offers you have, for sure, because the audience is probably eagerly anticipating that here. So, if you got somebody out there today, doctor, and they're just like, man, I have neglected this thing for 20 years. I've known for a decade I need to do something. It was kind of funny that I had a beer gut when I was 30, and we laughed about it on the golf course with my buddies. And now I'm 42, and here's my list of symptoms that even my wife doesn't know, because I don't talk to her about all these things that are actually destructive in my health. And part of it is I'm embarrassed. I was a college athlete, Tracy. I should know better. All these things that we run in our head, like what we should have known or whatever. What do you tell them today?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. Real quick aside. I'm working with two NFL players. They're both wide receivers, ironically. who have dramatically diminished testosterone levels. And so it's not just older guys, it's younger guys, even athletes. This is an issue for every guy. So it's ironic that it's happening. It's ubiquitous.
But and for people that don't know, like just to understand that, a wide receiver in professional football is probably one of the most fit individuals on a team. You run routes and then you run and it's very much like soccer. A wide receiver often runs like 4 to 5 miles of sprints in one game. It's amazing how much that. So they have like 3 to 5% body fat. You see them; they look like chiseled goddesses, you know, in their underwear. We call them underwear guys, right? We used to have them in baseball too. You call them, wow, they look great in their underwear, but they can't catch the ball. That's a problem. So here's the job, right? Like, it's great that you look awesome, but we really need you actually to squeeze the football and catch it, And it's the same thing in baseball. Like, hey man, you're a great underwear guy, but we actually need you to hit the ball and field it, it's great that you look good. Now we need skill sets, right? So sidebar, but that's so important because I really want people to understand this is the most elite fitness level you've ever seen. And by their chiseled form, you would never think low testosterone.
Right. And they still need help. They still need help. And that drives me to the answer to your question in a very circuitous manner is amazing book by Dan Sullivan that I love. And I have my team read as well called Who Not How. He wrote that with Ben Hardy, Who Not How. And the concept of the book that most entrepreneurs, if you haven't read it, you should. It touches on the point that instead of wasting your time, effort, and money on learning how, find the expert who can do it for you quicker, faster, easier, more efficiently, so you can stay in your lane and stay in your area of expertise. And so what I would tell you guys out there, instead of hitting PubMed and researching the science around all the stuff we're talking about, find an expert who could do it for you. Find someone who knows what they're talking about, who knows how to approach this stuff so you can stay in your lane, stay in your area of expertise and continue to crush it in your business, crush it in sports, crush it in whatever you're doing and not waste your time trying to, this is not something you want to DIY it. Some things you can do it yourself. You can figure it out. You can go online and watch a YouTube video and figure out how to change a battery or how to do something. This is not that thing. So find an expert who can do it for you. Find your who, not the how. So that's really the best answer I can give you for that because it's complex and it's changing every day.
That's right. No calcium scores on YouTube. So
That's right.
You got to get in. Author of Male 2.0, Tracy Gapin. So excited to have you here, man. Let's talk a little bit about while you're teeing up your offers to everybody. I just want a really quick review for the audience here. Just amazing day of talking a little bit about getting into that process, right? As we look into our health, we're getting a diagnostic of where we're at, getting assessment. Then we're going to go a deep dive into what that is. We test, we don't guess. I love that line. Test, don't guess. Like, let's get the data. We make fabulous decisions. We give fabulous advice on information and good information. Never, never, never. And I hate the word, man, but I tell a lot of people, it's not great practice to be making decisions with 33% of the information. It's not great practice to give advice or coach somebody with 33% of the information. Dr. Tracy's not going to give me advices on 33% of the information. We're going to go do the diagnosis, get a deep dive. He's going to have 98% of the information because it's hard to gather it all, but he's going to get as much as he can. And then he's going to design, thirdly, exactly how that's going to look. And it's going to be designed with intelligence based on that data. And then, of course, we're going to continue to know the numbers, monitor the data, and that's in your body. It's all sorts of different key performance indicators, KPIs, and our businesses. We're doing it all the same, right? We're getting that data and we're monitoring that to get predictive outcomes. This is what we can predict the outcomes by hitting these KPIs in those areas. When Tracy says, hey, listen, I'm going to get my cholesterol level in this area. I'm going to get my lipids in this area. I'm getting predictive outcome of living a longer life because I've chosen this and stay inside that because I do the right things. I make the right choices, right? Very similar to the way we're doing our businesses of getting it. So that methodology and process is amazing. Some of our books have been so valued here. Who Not How, Male 2.0, Tiny Habits, Atomic Habits. I'll add 10x is easier than 2x, another Dan Sullivan, which is another great book, right? We often have just great literature here. And listen, I get it. If you're a person who's as busy as the rest of us in this world, and we are busy, we tend to fill our calendars, right? And you're that entrepreneur. Look for the hacks. Look for a Blinkist. Look for somewhere where you can grab books and get them faster. Get on audio. Learn to listen to your books at 175 on windshield time. Get data. Get information back into you because it is out there. And I highly encourage you all to get down to the Gapin Institute. Let's hear what Dr. Tracy's got for some offers.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much, Trent. So gift for the listeners. Number one, I'm going to give you a digital free copy of my best-selling book, Mel 2.0. I'm going to give you an amazing ultimate peptide guide. I'm going to give you, and that has all the latest and greatest cutting edge information on all the amazing peptides out there. So you can start to learn about them. Don't do them on your own, guys, but you can learn about which ones might be right to consider. High Performance Health Handbook that I created, 15 strategies and tactics you can start leveraging today to have more energy, focus, and drive. There's a Peak Launch Masterclass in there. There's a bunch of other great goodies in there. And there's also a link if you want to jump on a call with my team to learn more information about how we can help you. There'll be a link for that as well. It's all complimentary. Go to gapininstitute.com/launch. Again, that's GAPIN Institute/launch. Free copy of my book, free peptide guide, High Performance Health Handbook, masterclass, and then link to jump on a call with my team if you're interested in learning more how we can help you.
Love it. I love it. All right. For everybody else, thank you so much for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show. As your host, Trent Clark, I'm so thankful to have Dr. Tracy Gapin today. And we are always live every Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, on our Leadershipity YouTube channel, and Facebook Live. And check all that out. All the podcasts drop every Friday. Hey, super excited. Our fourth month in a row over 100,000. We're moving over 200,000 downloads. So like it, share it with your friends. We are headed to over 500,000 downloads in this first quarter. Per month is our goal. So we need you to be a part of that. I'm super excited about some of the advertisers have come aboard. They're excited about it as we continue to grow, talking to absolutely the top 1% in the world, like Tracy Gapin, just another example of a fabulous guest we have here on the Winners Find a Way show. And so thank you to Tracy and those wonderful gifts. All those links will be in the notes below. And then Tracy, do they have a direct link to the website to get those things, or where do they find all that data?
Yeah. So just go to gapininstitute.com/launch. You can go to Gapin Institute to learn more about our center and all of our services as well. But that link's going to just take you to one page, and you can download all the stuff directly from that page.
Boom. There it is. gapininstitute.com/launch. That'll be in there, and we'll check it out. For everybody else, we'll see you next time. And winners, find a way.